Council and Commissioners, I'd like to welcome you all to City of Sault Ste. Marie City Council. I'd like to thank our media and broadcast partners for reporting on this meeting and broadcasting it. And this is a fantastic opportunity to get together. We have an incredibly special relationship, and I think this demonstrates that special relationship. So I just want to point out one thing to make it a little easier on us technically. We have over here Laura. Laura, can you put up your hands? So all of your mics, they're not hot. The mayor's mic and my mic are always on, but your mics aren't. When you go to speak, your mic will be on, but Laura is going to have to turn your mic on. So before you speak, if you could just kind of look at Laura and put your hand up, your mayor will give you the opportunity to speak, but just so Laura knows what mic she's turning on, that would be very helpful. So Laura's right here, and just give her a look-see, and she'll make sure your mic's on when it needs to be on. So welcome to our City Council chambers. We're excited for tonight's meeting. I'm going to pass the floor to Mayor Bospis.
Thank you very much, Mayor Provenzano. Again, it's just a pleasure being here. The City Sault Ste. Marie Commission. We certainly enjoy the fostering of the relationship and continue to strengthen that. And whatever we can do to benefit both of our communities, we certainly stand ready to help Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario with that quest. At this time, the introduction of the City Commission will be through the roll call. And before we do that, I'd just like to mention that Commissioner Jay Gage will be leaving the commission on the 19th of June. He is accepting a position with Senator Debbie Stabenow, and he'll be moving to Marquette. And Lindsay will be staying, as I understand it, in the City of Sault Ste. Marie for the time being. Jay will be commuting. But we certainly wish to... With that, we can open our side?
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
Okay. I would like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bospis.
Here.
Commissioner Baker. Here. Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Gage.
Here.
Commissioner Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Lynn.
Here.
Commissioner Twardy.
Here.
Okay, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mayor Provenzano.
Mr. Clerk, if you could start our meeting, please.
Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. Mr. Mayor, I'll ask you just to introduce those members of Council who are present today.
Thank you. We have Councillor Lou Turco, Councillor Frank Fata, Councillor Susan Myers, Councillor Paul Christian, Councillor Rick Nero, Councillor Matthew Shoemaker, Councillor Marchie Bruni, and Councillor Steve Butland.
Mr. Mayor, members of Council, I have a motion by Councillors Bruni and Butland resolved that the agenda for the 2017-06 Twin Saults Joint Council Commission meeting as presented be approved.
All in favor? Carried.
And a motion by Councillors Fata and Christian resolved that City Council now proceed into Committee of the Whole to consider the following matter referred to it for consideration, Twin Saults Joint Council Commission meeting.
All in favor? Carried.
Mr. Mayor, members of Council, and Your Honor, Mayor Bospis, and members of the City Commission, our next item applies only to the Sioux Canada side. Any declarations of pecuniary interest?
Seeing none, Mr.
So
Clerk.
noted. And our first presentation item is Canada 150. Councillor Susan Myers will, from the delegation position, give a presentation on the activities of Canada 150.
Thank you very much and welcome everybody. Great to be here. It's 2017 and the banner behind kind of captures the Sioux Celebrates Canada 150. And early this year, our country of Canada called for pictures of the Canadian flag and you doing something very profound with it. So what could be more profound than a picture of City Council with the Canadian flag? So that's what you see here. We submitted that. And in January of this year at our City Council meeting, the first one of the year, we really kicked off with a celebration and an acknowledgement of Dr. Roberta Bonder. A number of you I know Roberta. She's Canada's first woman in space, the world's first neurologist in space, and this happens to also be the 25th anniversary of her space flight, 1992, January 22nd to 30th. So the mayor proclaimed Dr. Roberta Bonder Days in the city of Sault Ste. Marie on January 9. And Dr. Bonder will be joining us for Canada Day on July 1st as the honorary community ambassador hosting Canada Day with Mayor Provenzano. So obviously, Sault Ste. Marie, Canada is rich in Canadian history and heritage. We love to celebrate both. The Canada 150 community calendar we've developed, it's been populated well. It's on our website. So if you want to know all that's happening over here, please go to our website. You're going to see a number of posters on your desk that we're going to refer to in a few minutes that are highlighting some of the special events. But the calendar is a good place to go. We created a post-a-leaf at community centers. The mayor's office has been very creative in coming up with some ideas. And Lisa Bell, assistant to the mayor, came up with this great idea. And our community centers are producing red leaves. And you can, just go in and say, "Why I love Canada," and it's posted on a wall in all of our community centers. That's been very successful. In February this year, we participated in a Canadian national mural mosaic, and it's 150 different sections to this mural from every province and territory across Canada, resulting in a national mosaic train. And this train, with various images from across each of these 150 communities, will create a mosaic that's 8 foot by 8 foot. This was the design that we had submitted for our Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario mural, and this is 8 feet by 8 feet. And then what happened was the artists came here who are going all across Canada guiding the communities. February 14 and 15, we had over 300 participants, and each one painted a 4-inch by 4-inch tile. In this picture, you'll see a real cast of characters here, including our Mayor Provenzano and some of our First Nations chiefs. So this is our finished mural. It's in 2 4-foot by 8-foot pieces. Together it will be mounted as one 8-foot by 8-foot mural. This is the mayor's fantastic, creative, hand-painted, free art that he did, freehand I should say. He did the replica of the Sault Ste. Marie logo, and he simply had it on his iPhone and looked at it and painted it. So we're very proud of his artistic prowess. And this will be unveiled on Canada Day, this mosaic mural. It hasn't been revealed to the public yet, and it will permanently be residing in the foyer of City Hall. We'll get to that in a minute. So we actually had Dr. Bonder paint a tile at her home in Toronto as well, and my tile, it will never have a close-up, and you'll never see it on the mosaic. It was terrible. It was a disaster. But anyway, moving right along. And the other thing that we're doing, again, out of the mayor's office, they came forward, Lisa, again, with the Why I Love Canada contest. And it's actually not even really a contest. It's just an initiative where every school child, every elementary school child has the option of filling in this form of Why I Love Canada and dropping it in the bin that you saw in the foyer of City Hall, downstairs by reception. And then once a month, the mayor's pulling out one of the submissions. And last Monday, May 29, was our first one with our young friend here, Alexander Webb. He came to council. He read his story about why he loved Canada. He spent some time with the mayor ahead of the meeting up in the mayor's office, and the mayor presented him with a lovely package of Canada 150 memorabilia, a backpack and a t-shirt, and then he came to council and read his story. So that was a great initiative. And as those of you who are with the commission in submission would appreciate, the mayor and council gave me no budget for this. I'm just going to say that. So we've been coming up with things that don't cost anything. So, we're on a shoestring. So if you want to know how to do something on a shoestring, trust me, I'll be able to tell you because we've done it. I had to get that plug in, Mr. Mayor and Council. The Mayor's Committee on Celebrate Canada 150 is planning a number of activities throughout the year, and really we're referring to it as a long road traveled. And the kickoff for our 10 days of concentration is June 21st, 12:15 here at the front steps of Civic Centre with a flag raising. And literally for that next 10 days in a 2-week period, there's 4 nationally recognized days that we will be highlighting. The first one is June 21st. It's National Aboriginal Day. And National Aboriginal Day is really important to us. It's held annually. It celebrates our Indigenous culture and the achievements made by our Aboriginal people. And Ontario, you may not know, has the largest Aboriginal population of any Canadian province. And Canada's National Aboriginal Day provides an opportunity for all Canadians to learn more about our Aboriginal neighbours. And we have a very close relationship with Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation and our Métis Nation of Ontario and our urban Aboriginal friends, and they'll all be participating with us. National Aboriginal Day for our Batchewana First Nation involves a celebration down at the Whitefish Island area, and everyone's welcome to attend. And there's more of this in our calendar on our website. Garden River will be also doing their own that day, and they'll be submitting information. So you keep going back to the calendar because it continually is updated. And then we move on to June 24th, another Canadian National Recognition Day. It's Saint Jean Baptiste Day, and this celebrates the feast of Nativity of Saint Jean the Baptist, and that's a national holiday, or excuse me, a provincial holiday in the province of Quebec. And it's a time when we celebrate our French-Canadian culture and heritage. Lots of music and fun and a lot going on there. They have a daytime schedule, they have an evening schedule, and all of their activities are taking place up at the canal area. And it's for all the family. And then we have Canadian Multiculturalism Day on June 27. And this is a day that really encourages a celebration of all of our cultural mosaic. And again, we have 200,000 immigrants a year that choose Canada, drawn by our quality of life and reputation as an open, welcoming, and peaceful, caring society. And our Sioux Multicultural Day is celebrated with a lot of community partners, the library, our local immigration partnership, art gallery, Sioux Community Career Center, New Beginnings, and some others. And we'll certainly have a great time on that day. They have, again, things for all the different age groups, families, and so on. And also in that afternoon on the same date of June 27, there's a seniors tea going on at our senior center that's fashioned through the ages, a salute to fashions over the last 150 years. So that'll be a fun time. And then we get to our pinnacle of our event, which is Canada Day, Saturday, July 1st. And again, I mentioned Dr. Bonder, our honorary ambassador for Canada 150, will join the mayor. And this kicks off at 1 o'clock at Roberta Bonder Park. I think you're all pretty familiar with there. That is the big white tent on our waterfront. Our mural mosaic will be unveiled that morning by Dr. Bonder and the mayor, but there's a replica of it that will be on display over at the opening ceremonies because it's extremely heavy, and once it's mounted here in Civic Center, it will be here for a long time. There's lots of other entertainment going on that day. So July 1, fireworks, as you know, and you'll be happy to know that maybe this year we'll be able to compete with our July 4th friends because we've really enhanced our fireworks. And I understand that they're going to be quite stupendous. So we did have to sponsor a Spark program to raise some funds. I just keep getting this dig in here. But it's been well received. So our actual schedule for that day is fairly detailed. Again, you can come to our city website. There's a whole Canada 150 linking. We have a parade of the paddles. This is going to be a lot of fun. At 10 o'clock that morning, out of the Sioux Canal, there'll be 150 paddlers coming out, heading down to the Bush Plain area where they will disembark and go over to the Ermitinger Clerg for a whole History Fest day of activity. So July 1st, a lot of fun, Canada, eh? And then one thing going on after our concentrated Canada 150 period is something that the Ontario government's doing. Actually, it's Ontario 150. And this is going to be really neat. It's called Sesqui. And what Sesqui is it's a cinematic dome with a free screening of a 360-degree film called Horizon. And this film is all about Ontario and vistas from all across the province, actually all across the country. So that will be located in the northeast corner of Station Mall parking lot. So at the corner of Bay and Elgin, just sort of in that Sears corner, we'll call it, for a landmark for you. So Sesqui is going to be a lot of fun. It's free. It will be here July 16 and 20. So come on over and see us. So we have so much to celebrate as Siouxites and as Canadians, and we've encouraged the community to plan their own event. We have souvenir pins that are $3, but for you, they're free. They're in your package on your desk. And just, again, visit our calendar if you want to come on over and join in on things. We'd really be thrilled to see you here, and it's our chance to share our country celebration with you, our best friends and our neighbors. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Myers. Councilman Myers, there might be some questions. What we're going to do as far as questions go post-presentation is that we're going to rotate from the commission to the city council, and we'll always start with you folks as deference to you being our visitors. So your mayor will call on you if you have questions, and he'll recognize you, and then we'll rotate over to city council. So, Mayor?
Okay. Certainly, just like to, on behalf of the city of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, I'd like to add our congratulations to Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and certainly all of Canada for the 150th anniversary as a nation, and sounds like you're going to have a lot of activities going on, and we'll be celebrating our 350th anniversary next year. So
Great.
we certainly will be talking to you about that going forward, but good luck with all your activities. Great job.
Thank you, Tony, and you don't look 200 years older than us at all.
We feel like it sometimes.
Well, thank you.
Commissioner Tuarte, did you have?
Thank you. If you're ready, okay. Just so everybody in the room knows that that's actually the same weekend that we are celebrating Engineers Weekend on our side. And so I think it's going to be fantastic that we'll be able to go back and forth on both sides of the bridge and have so much to celebrate. And thank you for the beautiful fireworks show that you're going to put on that evening for our entertainment also. So
Thank you. Thank you, and there will be fireworks on June 27th with our June 21st, National Aboriginal Day, so don't think that we've got the date wrong. They do great fireworks as well, and it's the Bridge Walk on that Saturday of your Engineers Day. So.
Yeah, so much going on. So, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? We're good? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Our next item is the International Bridge Update. Peter Patanen, General Manager, International Bridge Authority, is present to provide that update.
Welcome to Council and the Commission.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's actually a pleasure to be here. This is actually my first opportunity to address everybody, given that I've been in the job just a little bit over a year now. We've made some great changes this year, and hopefully this will give you an opportunity to see exactly what we've done this year and where we're going into the future. I will take an opportunity to, I would like to introduce, I do have with me here today our bridge engineer, Carl Hansen, and our chief financial officer, Crystal Knutson, with me. What I found in the last year is that there seems to be either a misunderstanding or lack of understanding or just misrepresentation of what happens with the bridge and the bridge authority. And what I've been doing in this last year is getting out and starting to talk to people to give them an understanding of what it is and how it operates. MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation, owns the U.S. half of the bridge except for the toll plaza. That's 50% owned by MDOT, and the other 50% is owned by the Federal Bridge Corporation. Federal Bridge Corporation owns the Canadian half of the bridge and the plaza. They provide the board members to the Bridge Authority, 4 from each side, which then give us our governance and oversight, and we represent the bridge administration, and we operate the whole crossing on behalf of both owners in both countries with one staff. Our primary goal and our mission statement is obviously safe and efficient movement of people across the border, but more importantly this year we're shifting maintaining and preserving the bridge and the asset because we want it to be here for the next 150 or 350 years. We have 50-50 staff, U.S. and Canadian, 32 full-time, 32 seasonal. We've increased our seasonal staff this year in order to accomplish a lot of our projects that we wanted to do in-house. Our focus is customer focus, is responsibility of the customer focus, quality, teamwork, pride, and integrity. What we manage everything. Toll plaza, the bridge, and Canada Customs under Canadian law. Canada Customs Act says that we operate and maintain the Canada Customs facility. Canada Customs is a rent-free tenant. We provide utilities, janitorial, and services to the facility. It's our responsibility, and that's what your tolls actually pays to maintain. And we are going to build for the future as well. Toll revenue. I'm going to tackle this one right up front. Commercial revenue. 8% of our traffic provides us 46% of our revenue. Our commercial traffic is subsidizing our revenue to maintain and support the bridge. Commuters, which are paying the least as far as customers are concerned, $250 US at a full 30% discount to cross, or $322 Canadian, they're paying only 36%. That commercial traffic is vital to our operations. So when you see traffic going up and down, don't look at that total traffic. Look at that commercial traffic. I'd add, too, that there's $1.8 billion in goods that cross the International Bridge every year, both north and south. Half of that is raw materials going south and finished goods going north. Toll rates didn't change for 39 years, and we started slowly incrementally increasing. Over the last 2 years, they've only gone up $2 US. That's it. We now offer discounted accounts online as well as 10, 20, 30% discounts. Visa, MasterCard, and debit online. I'm going to make that plug right now. No expiry. Please use it. Really important. Inflation. 1968, What buys us with $1 today, or sorry, $8.20 today, was $1 in 1968. Rates didn't change for 40 years, so we made those dollars stretch as far as we could. Our operational expenditures in comparison, $25,000 in 1968 is a $5.5 million operating budget today, which goes back into both communities. This was our capital plan last year. We had approximately $34 million in planned projects over the next 14, 15 years. And when we went to bid for some of our planned projects, they came back and they failed. So we took a very long, hard look at how we were going to continue to go forward because we couldn't continue the way we were. This is our capital asset management plan today. Very proud of the fact that the staff have contributed to ensuring and planning how this plan was going to be laid out. We're actually deferring almost all of that upwards of 15 years or more, and every year we're going to continue to reevaluate what needs to be done and continue to push and plan out further. The original deck on the bridge was scheduled to be replaced in 2012. Now it'll be 100 years old before we do that, and that's based on maintenance practices that we do annually on the bridge. How are we doing it? This was last year. Carl and Crystal and I had a very rough moment in the office when we saw some of our bids come back with regard to our rail and our paint projects. As you can see today, we have paint projects going on up on the bridge. It's a $3.5 million project. Last year, that low bid was $6.6 million. The high was 13.3. Obviously, we didn't have that in our funds. But today, these are pictures of what is going on up on the bridge. We're doing that project for $3.5 million. And the paint project, which is environmentally friendly and a single coat application, has the same lifespan as the original 3-coat system that was put on the bridge. So based at half the price, we're now shifting our maintenance plans in order to defer out or push out those long-term capital projects on the U.S. arches upwards of 2030. So we're not planning for 5 years, we're planning for 30 and 40 years out. We have 2 contracted projects this year, Canadian Arch and a Rockerlink project that's on the south side. And our staff said, the projects that failed, we can do that. For $300,000 in additional staffing, which is benefit back to the communities with additional jobs, we took out $800,000 of contracted projects back in-house, $1.1 million in bearing replacements that need to be done on the bridge, and the U.S. Arch. So almost $14 million in cash outlay saved, which is going to help keep those rates where they are today in order to benefit both communities and keep the traffic flowing. And this was just another quick example of some of the other savings that staff also were able to do. Those arch lights that everybody gets to see, and we have those lit this year with those LEDs, 55% energy savings, 6 years payback, 10-year warranty, 20-year expected life on all of those lights that are up on top of the arch, as well as on the deck of the bridge. The Canadian Arch Paint Project, not only did the pressure washer and some of the equipment that came for doing the paint project come back to help us with the paint project, but we started changing how we started doing the joints. The bridge moves back and forth. How we do their joint replacements. A 4-hour project was pushed down to 15 minutes, so we were able to better utilize our staff time and costs and spread it out to go on tackle other projects in the inspection reports for the bridge. The Canadian or the U.S. Toll Plaza, we saved $1.7 million on the contracted project. That was $8.9 million back into the community. In total, and these presentations are available online as well, we were going to put almost $87 million back into both communities with the plaza reconstructions. It's now valued at 40% of our total assets. When the bridge was built for $16 million. Now we've got 87 in just plazas. The Canadian Plaza project is more than halfway complete. We expect to have Canada Customs occupied and up and running and completed by the end of March of next year with the commercial traffic. So we'll be very happy to see that project completed. I might add too that everybody was looking at the grants and the funding for the Canadian Plaza. Canadian Plaza was funded through Federal Bridge through Border Infrastructure Funds to rebuild the plaza. However, tolls paid for all the property purchases. There was a limited budget in order to acquire the properties in order for that plaza to expand. The Border Infrastructure grant did not cover for property acquisitions. And I'm very proud of this. I can actually say we are now an award-winning team. back in March, and these were surprises to us as the administration, but the American Council of Engineering Companies of Michigan awarded us their merit award for the plaza reconstruction on the border, and just recently in the last couple of weeks, the Michigan Transportation Asset Management Council awarded us with an organization award on excellence in asset management. And of course, we've got time to celebrate in 2017 as well. Our staff have crossed the 6-year mark with no lost time injuries, working at 140 feet to 220 feet above the ground with concrete and steel. Very proud of that. That's our staff that's accomplishing that. We've had 20 plus peregrine falcons hatch on the bridge. We have 4 eggs that have now hatched up on the underneath the U.S. Arch. The bridge walk this year is the 31st annual, and it is on June 24th, the weekend before Engineers Day. In August, there's going to be the Great Lakes Hog Rally, which is actually going to include a parade on the bridge. And the Sioux International Festival of Races is coming up in September as well. 5 minutes.
That's great. Thank you very much for that presentation. Mayor, we'll start with your commission.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much for that presentation, and I guess the International Bridge Authority is being commended for the just the aggressive approach that you have put together since the retirement of the previous individual. Now you've got this it looks like a new issues being created and providing jobs. Let me ask you, is the International Bridge only funded by tolls? You get help from the Michigan Department of Transportation?
We do not get any help from the Michigan Department of Transportation at all with regard to funding.
That's very interesting when you consider that the tolls pay for all of the maintenance, all of the administrative entity on the bridge, so it's important that people continue to go back and forth and use that bridge as much as possible, but you're doing an exceptional job. Thank you. Commissioner, any questions? Commissioner Gage.
Peter, thank you for the presentation. Being the spouse of somebody who crosses that bridge every single day, I can certainly say that we have given you a lot of money over the years. Can you maybe comment a little bit about some of the rumors I've heard about the bridge widening project and where that's at? And, if that's a thing or...
To the Commissioner's question. We have applied 4 separate times now for funding for the bridge widening on the south side. We have maintained that the issues with regard to the south side of the bridge is as a result of the reconstruction of the U.S. Customs facility. U.S. Customs is federally operated and it's funded by General Services Administration. We have not been successful. Those federally funded projects have been 10 times oversubscribed for the funds that are available versus the need, and we've just been unsuccessful. We are a very small piece of that. The most recent round has been a match for the grants. We just don't have the funds to be able to even match those requests.
Councilor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Peter. There's a lot in the news recently about potential $1 trillion stimulus packages on the American side. If there is funds available for to advance any of the projects that you've got, over the next 20 or 30 years, are you in a position that you'll be able to execute those sort of on short notice?
To the Councilor's question, actually, we have the preliminary plans already in place to be able to do the widening on the south side. That is our primary focus because we believe that primarily will solve much of the traffic flow issues. And actually, I'd go a step further that our first priority should actually be the retaining walls on the plaza and not necessarily the bridge widening itself, because even just moving out the retaining walls will allow for increased traffic flow where it's bottlenecking right now.
Okay, good, thank you.
Commissioner Lynn.
Thank you. What I'd really like to think to help maintain the bridge is Canadians for cross-border shopping.
Councilor Myers.
How do I follow this guy? 2 things. First of all, a request. Peter, can you send the PowerPoint presentation to, certainly, I know Malcolm in our office, and I don't know if you want to, I don't know if the Michigan Commission probably would like it as well. If you can just send the PowerPoint to our clerks, then I'd like to have it, and that'd be great. I know it's on your site that you mentioned, but if they send it to us as a file, then it's easier for us. And the other one is, I just want to compliment you and all of the team that are there. I realize that the IBA is a big family, and when we've had an opportunity to work on the International Bridge Walk over the years and so on, and I apologize for having the wrong weekend there. We want to make that clear. It's June 24, not Engineers Weekend, like I said. Sorry about that. But thank you. It's really important. My background, as you know, is tourism marketing. And I say to our border folks, some are my golf partners, we need you to stand on guard for our countries, our respective countries. And we do appreciate it if you can do it in the most friendly way possible. And I know that you're the bridge, you're not the immigration, the customs, but you have a pretty close relationship. And if you would pass that on, and your own people from IBA, when we're crossing through these construction periods, they're always willing to have a smile and a wave. And I think that I have great respect for the height at which they work, and really want to thank you for your team.
To the council's comments, we actually have presented, the PowerPoint is available. And with regard to the staff, I will definitely pass that on. We've got good working relationships with both the CBP and the CBSA port directors. I will make an added plug for a plea to the public to please pay attention to our staff out there too. It's 6 years with no lost time injuries, but it is vitally important that the ultimate safety for our staff out there is in the motoring public's hands. We have had instances with people running red lights up there. There is a reason for our staff to run out and stop folks too. There was a reason we put staff out there 24/7, 365 to get them through those work zones, because it was vitally safe, and we did not want to just trust automated lights.
Thank you.
Does it go over here? Commissioner Tuardi.
Yeah, more of a comment too also, but when I look at the IBA release, and half of our commission now are small business owners, and I'm a second-time small business owner now, I really look forward to the amount of people that are crossing over the bridge, because that just means that our economy is being stimulated. And we go back and forth. I think sometimes we take for granted, at least I do, growing up here, the fact that I can just go to another country so my son can play hockey, or just so I can get a great Italian meal. And when I talk to my friends, and they're like, what do you mean you just went over to Pino's just to pick up some fresh bread or something? It's kind of, people don't really realize, but that cross-border traffic is really, as a small business owner, what I'm looking for all the time. That means that my business is staying stable, and speaking maybe on behalf of the rest of the small business owners here. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Christian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to pick up on those points. Recognizing the commercial traffic as the bread and butter revenue, how does the exchange rate right now affect commuter revenues? I would think that it's, you know, by population, we're traveling over there more than vice versa. So how does can you quantify the effect of the exchange rate?
To the councilor's question, actually, we not only can we quantify it, we can quantify it between Canadian and U.S. paying customers. Accountant by trade now, I actually opted not to include some more of the graphics that I normally otherwise thrown in there to maybe bore you, but there's really an inverse relationship between the exchange rate and auto traffic and our commercial traffic. Our commuters are actually staying very stable. There's very little change, which tells me from a commuter perspective that people that are crossing frequently are crossing on a regular basis. Right. When the Canadian dollar falls, it's those discretionary or those cash-only customers that are paying that just don't come or stay home, or maybe perhaps reduces some of our people that are going south for tourism, entertainment, or whatever. But that's the same time when that Canadian dollar is down, where our raw goods, materials, exports increase and head south. Mm-hmm. So those two swing in opposite directions constantly. And sometimes media focuses on one versus the other. And it's vitally important that there's almost a sweet spot at about 85 cents where auto goes up and commercial goes up and everybody's happy. But we plan for stable, flat
Right.
traffic. So, yeah, there's a definite relationship.
I think we're done.
Any other questions on the matter? So thank you for your presentation. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Mr. Clerk?
Our next item is a joint economic development presentation, revised MOU. We have Jeff Holt, EDC Director from Sault, Michigan, and Tom Dodds, Chief Executive Officer, EDC from Sault, Canada here.
After you.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity, everyone. You'll see in your packet that you'll see a revised understanding, two nations, one city. We had been discussing that in 2014 we came up with the document, the original document that's in your packet as well. And we thought it was time to revise and clean up the original document that is now 3 years old. And so what we'll work with myself and Al, we'll work together to do a final draft to present to the groups. But I thought I'd throw this in there in case anyone has any comments. I did not change anything dramatically, just cleaned it up a little bit and made it a little bit more user-friendly for everyone. And so, but also in that theme, you'll see in the document that there are, in item B, number 3, and it lists several of goals that we as a staff have attempted or will attempt and have attempted to accomplish. And I'd like to address a few of those. Number A, which is trade, between the Smart Zone and EDC offices in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and the Millworks Center for Enterprise Excellence, I call it. I added that, sorry guys. We work very closely. They've really been a guiding light for us to create an environment for our young entrepreneurs. And the facility is fantastic. I've been very fortunate to have been there several times. And hopefully our city commission can go there at one point. Some of us have been in the past out there, but the facility itself and the offices are so conducive to creativity. It's amazing, and we feed off of the Millworks operation. We appreciate that. Manufacturing, both value-added and forest products. Some of you may know I was a U.S. Customs broker and freight forwarder for many years. So when we talk trade, I light right up. That was my first love, and I'm pretty familiar with it. It's been a few years, but I always enjoy working on trade issues. We have a couple of firms that have expressed interest to locate in Sault Ste. Marie, and we're trying our best to accommodate them, and they look very, very promising. It's hard work with work visas and everything else, but we're working very hard, and we'll look forward to hopefully success on both sides. Multimodal transportation and issues. We have on the Michigan side, and I believe on the Canadian side as well, tremendous transportation issues. We seem to be a long ways from everything at times. We hear that on a regular basis. And quite frankly, we get tired of hearing it, but that's the way it is. But we partnered both the Sault Michigan EDC, the Sault Ontario EDC, and Chippewa County EDC have gotten together, and we've worked with the Eastern Upper Peninsula Regional Planning and Development Commission to contract a professional firm to devise a strategy that encompasses two goals. One is it discerns the feasibility of the UP as a micro multimodal transportation hub, and the second is the outlines a protocol for attracting logistic firms to the region. Part one of the strategy feasibility will analyze the region's existing transportation and industrial infrastructure, as well as current market conditions, and it'll determine whether or not there is a demand for a micro multimodal transportation hub in the Eastern UP. Part two of the strategy, which is very important, is that is the attraction to be fulfilled regardless of the findings in part one, to identify firms in logistics and related industries that are appropriate targets for the region. and devise a plan for pitching the region, and require the contractor or subcontractor to collaborate with local economic development organizations in Michigan and Ontario, which will culminate in meetings with firms pitching them to the UP as location for their enterprises. This firm has already been identified and hired, and they have been to the Sault Ontario and Sault Michigan EDCs and have gotten tours and issues on transportation, and I think they've met with Dan. And so far, so good. So we're hitting the ground running on transportation. And then I'd like to skip down to item G, which is energy and environment. One of the issues that we have on the U.S. side is not only the cost of our energy, which is high for everyone, but the availability of our energy for attracting large users for energy. And I have spoken to our president of the local energy utility, and he has informed me that a study is underway regarding Michigan and Ontario issues. The study is being done by MISO, M-I-S-O Energy. They're a regional transmission organization serving 15 states and parts of Canada. And since 2001, they've fostered wholesale electric competition, created greater system reliability, and established coordinated value based on regional planning. And I can have that website for anyone that needs it. I can perhaps forward it on. And what that'll do is that'll identify if there's energy available and what the cost would be. We've had a recent firm come to Sault Michigan area from the middle Atlantic states and indicated that they were interested in a large plant, and they were going to get their raw material in Ontario, and their project was energy based, and they flat out, that was priority, was energy costs. And so we're working very hard to try to come up with a solution, and this will help. And lastly, item J on your list, tourism and retail development. We formed a little over a year ago, the city manager and myself formed a group called the Economic Resource Alliance. And that includes many of our area providers, if you will. And Tony Haller from the Chamber of Commerce is here, and he's part of that group. And what we've done is we've tried to come up with a think tank, if you will, and a clearinghouse for anyone that is needing a business, want to start a business, want to expand their business, or if they're in trouble. And we have had tremendous success in not only attracting potential business owners, but businesses that would like to adjust their marketing and business plans. We provide business plans and marketing plans at no cost through the Small Business and Development Center, and we can offer them, we like to think, a one-stop shop for development, whether it's manufacturing, retail, that's okay. So we've identified the tourism and retail development as well. And with that, I would like to then now turn it over to my partner here, Al, and he'll take it away.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Just a couple of add-ons to what Jeff said. The Two Nations, One City document that we were discussing is something that was a natural outcome of the Celebrate 100 events in the city, signing off a relationship agreement with the two cities, and this was a natural fallout from economic development. We have this formal structure, but frankly, I think what's been even perhaps more effective in many respects is the ongoing dialogue that Dan Hollingsworth, for those that don't know, Dan is here right now, have had on an ongoing basis and really sort of opened the door for businesses in Canada to capitalize on the fact that we have a relationship with the city across the river and vice versa. And we have some synergies we take for granted, that in terms of clearly on the social side we know them, but on a business side, and we've had discussions before with Mayor Bospus and others, many of the things that we have in terms of retail is a function of the market that is on the other side of the river. So we are kind of have a symbiotic relationship in that respect, and so that kind of local trade has largely benefited from that. I would mention a couple of things. In terms of education, I wanted to point out that Dan Hollingsworth sits on a professional advisory committee for Lake State in business and in engineering. And essentially if there's something that we really have shared very much, it's the incubator that you have in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and similarly the one we have in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. There's been a lot of dialogue on how each can capitalize on the other. In terms of health, and we have Tony Anderi here, who's we've worked with and with Sioux Area Hospitals and the Moore Hospital. It's been a little slow in coming to fruition, but the objective is what synergies can we realize from the other hospital? There are very basic things that are necessary to operate both facilities, and then there's other things from a diagnostic imaging perspective that we may have a piece of equipment, or we maybe have certain services here that may be capitalized on by our American friends, and vice versa. Our Canadian folks can go over and get the services in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, instead of having to travel to other locations. I think that kind of is coalescing a bit more assertively over the last little while, but I think that's a very important one. Anything that will bring the cost down, and presumably we can get through the red tape for each of the institutions, I think is a really critical piece of the puzzle. Now, in terms of some of the other things that we have, I would say this almost, somewhat facetiously, we have remarkable broadband that provides redundancy across the river for us. I don't know what the implications are for the U.S. side, but it helps us with respect to the lottery, the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation. It gives us that sort of extra margin. And I would say that from an e-commerce perspective, there are certainly 2 or 3 institutions in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan that certainly benefited from the fact that e-commerce is live and living in Sault Ste. Marie. The other point I would make is that there are some synergies that we can explore from an aviation standpoint. We've quite a good relationship with our Airport Development Corporation, and you have had some recent announcements with regards to the Sault Ste. Marie acting as a center as well for aviation. I think those are really important. And going forward, issues like transportation, issues like the multimodal, people forget, and we've brought forward the case to the province of the fact that there's a multimodal exercise for Northern Ontario. We've pointed out that there is, which was not showing on the map, that there is a bridge that goes across the states in terms of rail. And that's something that both sides can capitalize on. So the study that Jeff has referred to, I think, is a logical piece of linking together. So I think that what we need to do, and I spoke with the board at our meeting today, that we'd like to invite our counterparts in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan to a meeting. We can probably finalize this document and similarly have sort of an informal get-together on both sides of the river and get sort of the more formal aspects of this thing rolling. So with that said, I'm happy to entertain questions.
Well, thank you both, gentlemen, for your presentation. Mayor, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. And again, thank you both. It's exciting times. What do we have to do as a commission to expedite the signing and the meetings, or is that something that you're just going to take care of?
I would just say that the two, and correct me if I'm wrong, the two municipalities have signed an agreement.
Yes.
A sub-component of that is this thing, joint international relations and growth, the JURIG. That's what we have to do. So I think that. Okay. And we'll let you know, but I'd certainly be happy to have.
It's exciting times when you listen to what some of the things that are going on and could be happening here in the near future. And with that, we'll entertain some questions from our commission if there are any. Commissioner Gage.
I'll keep it short, but Tom and Jeff, I both respect you individually and the work that you do on behalf of both of our communities. Looking at this list, I think some of the most important ones that jump out of my mind are the multimodal transportation and logistics, and energy and environment. I had to laugh a little bit about healthcare because one of these days we'll figure out that you guys have the right answer and we'll get single-payer healthcare as well. But I can say that now because I'm leaving the commission. But in terms, I don't know if you are prepared maybe to comment or to give more kind of insight into that. I don't want to go too deep into the woods on this, but. In terms of logistics and multimodal transportation, is there any more movement on a certain port that has been discussed?
Well, the Port of Algoma is alive and living. I mean, it has activity and so forth, but the future of that whole area and the relationship is still being sorted out. It's under the U.S. equivalent of Chapter 11. But I think from our perspective, and I won't speak for the council, but from the Economic Development Corporation, it's a top economic infrastructure priority for us. There are efforts underway to get ready at which time that this whole process gets itself sorted out, which we all would like sooner rather than later, but it is what it is, and so it's still very much on our radar.
Well, this is a quick follow-up. Jeff, let's just, do an end run while they're busy here, let's get it on our side. So there's your marching orders.
Okay.
City Council, Councillor Fata.
Thank you very much. Just one question. In Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, I think it's safe to say that our population has been trending downwards. And actually, a friend of mine, an accountant who's very good with numbers, he thinks the population in Sault Ste. Marie here is about 66,000 people. And I'm just wondering, do either one of you can give us a pretty clear indication of what the population is on both sides of the river? Would you have an idea on either side?
Councillor Fata, I imagine that Mr. Dodds on the Canadian side is going to go with the census.
Yeah.
But if Mr. Dodds wants to proclaim a different answer, he's welcome to do that.
I would just point out that from a market area perspective, we're about 78,000, and then that doesn't include, for example, the area of what I would call Sault North. Mm-hmm. And then I would defer to Jeff about what the population is best he knows for the other side of the river.
I don't have the exact figures, but I want to say 13,000, 13,500, something like that.
14.3.
14.3. Okay. We've been busy the last couple of years.
And that's just the Sioux area, but you're talking about the greater Chippewa County areas of 52,000 type of thing. So
that's a number we like.
Yeah.
Just as a rule, when we describe the two, we use kind of 125 as our kind of number.
Yeah. Easily.
People talk about what's the market in that immediate area.
Mm-hmm. I think Councillor Fata had a follow-up.
No, I'm just, all of us are always concerned about what we can draw here in terms of what our population draws, and then we look at both sides of the river and the area, and it's important that people realize that it's not two small cities here. It's all combined with the area. I think it's important that if we want to draw certain sectors of the economy here, it's certainly nice to know that it's not just a city of 13 or so thousand and somewhere around 70-some thousand, and because I know there's always talk about people drawing. I mean, this is just like big box stores, and they look at the population, they go, well, they need 100,000 people before they'll even entertain the thought. But it's nice to know that the area is actually much more than that. So it acts more of a drawing power, I guess, is certainly important.
I just make this observation. We just got information from a Conference Board of Canada. If there's any part of our economy that's growing, it's the retail side. It's growing overall. And it'd be fair to say that you wouldn't have, as an example, 2 Walmart superstores plus an additional Walmart in the close proximity that they have, given that when you move beyond the 2 urban centers, the distribution of population is quite modest. And, you really, the catchment area, even if you were to go an hour out, is not really that great. It's on either side. So it speaks to the issue of, that we do have that capacity because there's a certain reciprocity across the river.
Just one more point, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, in terms of you were recently up in Sioux Lookout, Tom, and in terms of the Ring of Fire, was there any part of that conversation included traffic on our bridge and any way involving our friends to the south? Did anywhere during that conversation did that come up as far as
the attention of the relationship is, imagine us as 2 hubs, and the first hub is going from truck, meaning from the mine site in northern Ontario, very remote northern Ontario, down to Sault Locks. And that would go on to rail. And then from rail, it would go on to Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. The proposal is for processing to go out by boat. Right now, the end users are all on water. So it would be it would be surprising, apart from raw materials coming in, that we would use the commercial truck, the sort of the bridge itself. We would only use the train bridge, if anything at all.
If I could just, as a footnote, ask our city manager to just comment on the economic alliance that has been formed.
Thank you for that question, Mayor. Certainly, as referenced by EDC Director Holt, the Economic Resources Alliance is effectively a consortium of those organizations within our community that play a role in economic development. So you have the City of Sault Ste. Marie, the Downtown Development Authority, the Economic Development Corporation, Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Development Corporation, Sioux Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Eastern Upper Peninsula Regional Planning and Development Commission, the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians, and Lake Superior State University, among others. And so each organization meets on a monthly basis and exchanges information and aligns our operations to make sure that we're leveraging our assets in an effective manner.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner?
So we have Councilor Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be remiss if I didn't harken back to one of the greatest examples we've ever had between our twin sister cities working together. Had to be the ABC bowling bid. I look at Commissioner Lynn, and I know that I have Councillor Butland behind me, and we even created a beer with a label, and that's really where the Two Nations, One City was born. That was in the early 90s, I believe, when we had to go to Reno, Nevada and make a presentation, and it was about a 3-month event that had we been successful, we would have had here. But quite frankly, I was in the tourism office at the time, and we had to create an international pitch to host this event in our twin sister cities. And it was quite an incredible experience for about 2 years that we worked on that bid. And we had a great committee with both of these men, mayors at the time. And really, for myself, it was my first foray of working with a city council too on an initiative. And then I went and ran anyway when I retired, I don't know. But there's a close relationship on the tourism players side that has been going on for many years. And we market one another's tourism assets. I can remember being at a trade show in Milwaukee on one occasion when somebody said to me, "You mean the Agawa Canyon doesn't leave from Ashman Street in Sioux, Michigan?" No. So we market very closely, and this whole idea of the Two Nations, One City, I think is more than a slogan for us. And so I really have a lot of respect for what our two EDCs do, and the tourism arms of those two organizations as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions? And I do remember the bowling congress. I think Sioux, Ontario was going to spend several $1 million in putting up a building if we could have gotten that. And I know Mayor Lynn at the time was traveling around the countryside. Every chance they got to go, Mayor Butland was always. It was a great experience. I'm sure just putting that together. Commissioner Lynn, former mayor, you'd like to comment?
Yeah, it was really a great time, how we worked together on this. Matter of fact, I still have the beer from Doran's, okay? But I was disappointed it didn't happen due to the fact that Sault, Ontario didn't want to come up with the 9 or 10 million, and we had our $2.98 all set to go. But it was a great experience, and they told us that money didn't matter. Remember that, Steve? So we get in there, and they said, "You did the best job of anybody." But the problem is, I think it was Knoxville, Kentucky, come in with a check for $250,000. We were gone. It was just like that. But it was a great time. I think this is where it all started.
Councilor Shoemaker.
Thank you. I was probably a bit young when that was going on.
Or not born, Councilor Shoemaker.
Yes, precisely. But I did have a question for the city manager from Sioux, Michigan. You had mentioned that all the parties involved in this initiative, and you had mentioned that there was a downtown development bureau on your side, but I didn't hear, is our downtown association part of this? Perhaps our CAO could answer that?
I think Mr. Dodds has an answer here. Mr. Dodds, if you can just go to the mic.
First of all, I'm delighted to hear that you've got that affiliation with the various parties on your side. I think it's a great idea. I'm not aware, and Al, I see Al saying the same, we're not aware of that, but it may be something as one progresses through this that we be part of that as, we think about our counterpart as well, to pull those groups together. I think that is another piece of the puzzle perhaps that we can move forward on.
Okay, that'd be great, thanks.
If I may, they're always welcome at our table, always. And we could probably get Tony to pass along information through his counterpart on this side to spread the word, and we'll get it to Al as well. It's kind of a roundtable discussion. It's not very formal, but we talk about issues. The last, I believe, 2 meetings ago, we invited a person that opened a small business, and we wanted to hear the good and the bad. And there was some challenges, obviously, but we wanted to hear what they were about and try to avoid that in future endeavors. And I know that Council Tuarty is very, very in tune with that, and we're very pleased with our results so far. Always welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I don't see any from our sides. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I missed one. Councillor Buttonland, I apologize. I'm not used to looking that far to the right or that far to the left for questions.
Member of the peanut gallery now after all these years. And Bill Lynn, I'm really embarrassed that he's at the front table and I'm at the back table. Totally inappropriate. Good to see you, Bill. There was mention of the energy initiative, and I have a personal interest in that. And your governor has said, let's talk to our Ontario neighbors about the potential of us selling some of our excess energy to the Upper Peninsula, and that would involve certainly Sault, Michigan. And Dan Dasho was very keen about this, and you did mention it's Cloverland Electric, is it?
Yes.
And so I'm participating in a teleconference on Thursday, and in speaking to these folks in Lansing, we are very much a part of this study. Sault, Michigan, Sault, Ontario, maybe not specifically, but we are the most logical connecting point between the two. So we are on the table, and the study is being conducted as we speak and will be completed in December. And I think it would be a good opportunity, I may have missed the boat on this, I don't know, but of going together. It's going to be a financial decision, let there be no doubt, but there are some political overtones to the whole thing. So I will reach out, hopefully, we have an informal committee of councillors on this side, Councillor Shoemaker and Krompotich, and maybe we could have a political meeting and move together to lobby that this is a good location to do this. I've had a developer come and say, it's a great idea and we're prepared to invest monies in something like this. So there could be mutual benefit to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butland.
In just a comment about the electrical situation in the city of Sault Ste. Marie, 2 years ago, we weathered the storm, and we were going to see increases well into the 60-70% for businesses, and it was going to pretty much take the lights out in the UP, and that was with MISO and FERC. And now when Commissioner Gage's new role as the UP representative, he's going to be much more familiar at the federal level with the electric utilities and those entities that are responsible for setting rates. So we would certainly rely on him going forward that we cannot have that, and it's still on the horizon. Former Mayor Butland, the electric charges coming forward are still out there, and they really haven't answered the questions yet or come to any conclusion. And we in the Eastern UP are paying for a plant in the middle of the UP that we draw no electric power from, and those electrical increases could be devastating to the whole UP, especially the Eastern UP. So that's something on the horizon that's not gone away, and we're going to have to continue to be diligent and vigilant on both those entities. But we know that Commissioner Gage will be on top of that once he takes over, and that. No. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
Our next item, Sault Locks project update. Kevin Sprague, area engineer, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, is in attendance.
Welcome, Mr. Sprague.
Thank you. And thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak and talk about our new lock project, or potential new lock project. I'm going to talk a little bit about our project, why it's needed, how we as an agency analyze and compete projects for funding, where we are with the economic study that we currently have underway, and then hopefully I can answer some questions if you have any. But right now, 86% of all the cargo that flows through the Sault Locks is restricted to the pole lock. And that's due to the size of the vessels. Vessel sizes have grown over the years, especially the wider vessels. It's a lot more efficient to move cargo that way. And as a result, we've got a situation where we need more redundancy. We don't need another lock because of a capacity issue. There's really no significant delays to ships that are using the facility. It's really comes down to the fact that if the pole were to go out of service for any significant amount of time, it would have pretty significant national economic consequences. I want to talk about how we analyze and compete for funding. And then there's two basic ways for us to get funding. And one way, Congress can directly appropriate funds for a specific project. But more commonly and typically, the Corps of Engineers has a construction general fund that Congress appropriates money to. And then we compete, we do economic studies on projects and come up with benefit cost ratios. And then they compete with other projects nationwide, and that's how you rack and stack which ones have the top priority. What happened in 2006, the benefit cost study that was completed came up with the result of 0.73 for a new lock at the Sault. To be policy compliant, benefit cost ratio has to be above 1 for the project to be budgetable. And so obviously that's a problem. In 2009, Congress earmarked $17 million for construction. What we did with that money is we built 2 cofferdams where the 4th lock is in preparation of building a new lock, and that's where the location will be. We also deepened our east approach from 23.5 feet to 29 feet deep, and that was drilling and blasting through bedrock. But right after that, Congress stopped doing earmarks, so that method isn't out there anymore. So just a couple years ago in 2014, we got together with industry. We partnered with the steel industry, the mining industry, the shipping, and even rail participated. And we went through the previous study that had been completed to analyze it and see what was wrong, because something didn't seem right. 0.73 did not make sense to anybody, but we had that's our process, and we had to figure out what was wrong. Well, there were some assumptions we found had been made with that study. One of them was that the future reliability of the facility was going to go to 100% in the year 2017. That's this year, I guess. They assumed that the whole facility would have been recapitalized, rebuilt by that point, and so thus would have been 100% reliable. Well, that didn't happen. We're actually in the middle of an asset renewal program, but that's just to keep us going with the current equipment, and that will continue for many years to come. But the other assumption was that alternate modes of transportation were available such that all commodities could move by rail at no additional cost if the locks were not available suddenly. That's false. The rail infrastructure does not exist to get from the mines to the steel mills in particular, and the majority of the steel mills on the Great Lakes can only accept iron ore by vessel. They accept coal by rail, but their ore fields are on the lakeside. And the other thing was they assumed that all new ships would be smaller and would fit the MAC lock. So there's obviously a lot of problems. So we started a new study here in the past year, and before I go into that, the four major or main commodities that come through the facility are iron ore, stone, wheat, and coal. And coal is our number 2 commodity. Iron ore by far has the most significant impact nationally. There's 11 integrated steel mills in America, 3 in Canada that are operating today. 3 are in Canada, and the other 8 are in the U.S. They are reliant on that taconite. Our North American steel industry, as far as integrated mills, have evolved to using the taconite pellet. All their material handling, everything is set up around that. It's a very efficient way to do business. But right now, 100% of all the ore mined in the United States flows through the Sault Locks. Up until just in the last month or two, the port of Escanaba closed. That was the only port outside of Lake Superior that was shipping taconite pellets. But with the closure of the Empire mine outside of Marquette, that port is now closed. So now it's 100%.
100%?
100%.
Goes through those locks.
Right. So there's, and so then all of the U.S. mills receive 100% of their ore through the locks. If you were to go down and, including, I would say, SR here in town, they don't need the locks from a taconite perspective, but coal and stone for making coke come through the locks to serve them. If you look at, I think it's, the other 2 mills are Nanticoke and Hamilton. One of them gets probably about 1/3 of their ore through the locks, and they're getting the rest from Quebec, I think. But the other ones, I think 100% as well. So it's fairly significant and extremely significant. And so we started this new study, and that study's been marching along, and it was scheduled to be completed for December 2017. So we just got our 2017 work plan about 2 weeks ago, and we discovered that the funding that was required to complete that study had been removed unexpectedly. So right now we're in a situation where we have efforts underway to try to reprogram funds from other projects to complete this study. And where we're at now is that by the time we get reprogrammed funds, it'll be another 6 months before we can complete the study. So we're in a delay situation right now. That's kind of where it's going to end up. I mean, it's not all negative. We've got a lot of good press right now. We've got a lot of political support, a lot of industrial support. It's a bipartisan support. It's not a partisan issue at all. It's really a regional. I think across our region, people really understand what's going on, and we're doing pretty good that way. But that's kind of all I have for now, and I hope.
But notwithstanding that, somebody removed the money.
Notwithstanding that, yeah, that was an issue. Yeah.
Okay, Mayor, we'll start with you.
Thank you. There's no question the importance to the city of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and the surrounding area if the new lock were to actually become a project. And it's interesting to note that they have spent nearly $50 million already in the engineering, the cofferdams, some other things that are going on that are in preparation for a new lock, much like the pole lock. Anything that Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and I know you've written letters on our behalf, on the Corps' behalf, to make this come to fruition because of the economic impact that would be over a maybe a 12-year, 15-year period, and now it's up to, I believe it's close to $1 billion. Initially $500 million. When you're looking now, it's close to $1 billion, I would guess. And so that certainly thank Kevin for his report, and he continues to do what they need to do in preparation for the eventual, hopefully, undertaking when they're going to do that. So, any questions from Commissioner Tuarty?
Thank you. Well, not to put more pressure on Commissioner Gage, but I know this is more of a state, it's not really a state issue, it's more of a federal issue, but it's going to be really great having Jay representing the UP and the Locks, and thanks for being here, Kevin. Just to put into perspective, so let's just take the Paul Tregurtha, for example, and I know that you said that it's not even possible to put to transport all those commodities via rail. But just if you could put it into perspective, because I think the Tregurtha carries, what, 127,000 metric tons?
Yeah, 70,000 net ton it can handle, which is,
okay.
I can't remember figures real well, but it's many train sets. It's like 2,500 trucks or something crazy thing. But,
So when you talk about the time commitment of trying to transport all that via truck or rail, it's so much more time consuming and it's so much more efficient to have the ships going on the waters. It's necessary, and it just blows my mind. They can't see that the backup, and I know that the PO, you need to be able to do some maintenance on it because there are things that are aging on that lock also, so you can't really shut the lock down.
Yeah, so there's some items that we have an asset renewal program in place, so we're marching through all of our major equipment and recapitalizing it. We actually have some equipment that's over 100 years old that we still use on for dewatering the locks and such. But yeah, as we get into it, there's certain things on the PO that we cannot recapitalize without shutting down navigation for several months. And that's just not tenable. That won't happen. So with a second lock, we could actually take on those next phases of maintenance on the pole lock.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a significant number of questions about this issue because it is a critically important one to both of our economies, but I'm going to defer to the city councilors here, so we'll start with Councilor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In September 2015, after I think what was a 9 or 11-day shutdown, as I understand, that summer of both locks, or it may have been 9 days of one of the locks and 1 or 2 days of another one, but that caused some significant issues for Great Lakes shipping. Councillor Christian and I brought a motion, and that motion had the support the construction of a new lock. Obviously, there's only so much we could do on our side. It is a U.S. federal issue, but we understand, our council, I think, fair to say, understands the critical nature of this lock to our economic development. So that resolution expressing our unreserved support for the new Sault Michigan lock had the support of SR Steel, Port of Algoma, the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, and the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. So across not only our community, but across our entire province, this is understood to be a critical piece of infrastructure for regional economic development and economic development of the entire Great Lakes region. So there was also, shortly after the summer of 2015 shutdown, a number of articles written in the Detroit Free Press that expressed how significant of an impact a shutdown in both locks would be. And I think I'm going off the top of my head here from recollection, but I think it was something like there would be a 25% dip in economic activity in the Great Lakes states and provinces for the period of the shutdown after 6 months. So, it is critical to not only us, but Michigan, Ontario, both twin cities, but as well, the entire Great Lakes region. So nothing could be more vital to our joint interests than the new lock. If in any way we could be helpful in getting whoever it was that took the funds out for the study to put them back in, we'd be happy to support it, I'm sure, with resolution, expressing our belief that this is an important issue. So whatever we can do to help, I know that council will endorse it.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Gage.
Well, you certainly knew I was going to talk about this one. But as you guys may or may not be aware, this past Friday, Senator Stabenow was able to put together a group of dignitaries to come and tour the locks. We had Senator Stabenow, Senator Peters, Governor Snyder, and then Congressmen Bergman, Trott, Lawrence, Upton, and I believe Dingle as well, tour the locks. So one of the things that's really important here right now is that everyone is kind of coming together bipartisanly and understands it. And what we've got to do as a strategy is not only, make sure that the flawed study is done, and I think that we're pretty much done with the study now, right? Or the new contingency study?
Oh, well, that's, that has another 6 months of work to go.
Okay, so it's being worked on currently.
Well, it's stopped, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with no funding, it has to stop.
Okay, but I think one of the things that's so important is to continue to put pressure on it and to continue to talk about it and to continue to bring it up because, like my colleague from the Canadian side said, it could create an actual recession, national recession for both of our economies, and it's incredibly important. Kevin, I appreciate your report. You do a fantastic job. I have to laugh, though, because when you mentioned that you had to deal with things that you still use that are 100 years old, I have to say I don't have much sympathy for you because we have to deal with commissioners that are over 100 years old. And we have to make...
Not for long.
But I have to get my pot shots in now. But certainly, the importance of this is crucial, and thank you for all your work, and I really look forward to being an advocate on your behalf, on our behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Christian.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to withhold my question.
Anyone else? Sure.
Councillor Fada.
Just your opinion on this item, but I understand that our government will be funding 100% of the new bridge in Windsor. Does that have any influence on the federal government as far as...
I doubt it, but, it's... there were the project was authorized in 1987, and then there was another update to the Waterway Resource Development Act. At one point, it was supposed to be partially funded by Canada. Every state was supposed to pony up a certain amount of money, including Canada was going to pony up so much, and the federal government the other 50%. I think there was a lot of trouble getting everybody to buy off that. Michigan and Minnesota stepped up right away, but not everybody understood how that could impact them as much. So that act actually made it 100% federally funded, which was actually good for the project. It makes things a lot simpler for us.
Just one follow-up, if I may.
Go ahead.
I understand that the new administration in the U.S. mentioned something about $1 trillion infrastructure. Is any part of that have maybe some optimism for you as far as...
Yeah, well, one of the things, the president released his top 50 infrastructure projects, and we were on that list. So that's a good thing. Yeah, that's definitely not a bad thing. But again, we have an authorized project, but we need the appropriation now to be able to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentations.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. Clerk.
Our next item is Great Lakes Resolution. We have a resolution that's going to be moved and seconded jointly so that it's an official motion for each body. I've moved by Councillor Shoemaker and Commissioner Gage and seconded by Councillor Myers and Commissioner Twardy. Whereas in 1909, the Boundary Waters Treaty was signed by the governments of the United States and Canada, which started the formal process of creating the International Joint Commission to deal with issues facing our shared water boundary. And whereas the two governments then signed the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement in 1972, which extended this approach to include issues facing the Great Lakes, and whereas several treaties, laws, and initiatives have been developed and implemented by the governments of the United States and Canada to protect, maintain, and restore the Great Lakes. Now therefore be it resolved that Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario City Council and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan City Commission call upon our local, provincial, and state and federal stakeholders to advocate for continued financial support for programs that protect, maintain, and restore our Great Lakes. And further be it resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to the Honourable Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, Terry Sheehan, Member of Parliament for Sault Ste. Marie, the Honourable Kathleen Wynne, Premier of Ontario, Ross Romano, Member of Provincial Parliament for Sault Ste. Marie, the United States President Donald J. Trump, United States Senator Debbie Stabenow, United States Senator Gary Peters, United States Congressman Jack Bergman, the Governor of Michigan Rick Snyder, State Senator Wayne Schmidt, and State Representative Lee Chatfield.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Hello, start with you, Mayor.
Sure. Do we have a motion? Or do we have the motion already?
Oh, it's been
roll call,
moved and
please.
seconded.
Mayor Bospas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker? Yes. Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Motion carried. Thank you.
Before we call the vote, Councilor Shoemaker, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I couldn't let a council meeting go by, even an international council meeting, without having a motion on the agenda. So thanks to Commissioner Gage for really putting this together. We had talked about a couple of options, and this was one that I think both councils could agree was important to our joint interests. We have an interest in making sure that the Great Lakes are clean and remain clean and are well looked after by both jurisdictions that border Michigan and Ontario. So there have been proposals out there to reduce the funding for the Great Lakes water quality initiatives, and it's our hope that those proposals don't come to fruition, that in fact the money that's there to make sure that the Great Lakes are maintained in a excellent state, and that they are here for our enjoyment and our future enjoyment, and that we can continue to see the improvements that we've seen, I think, over the last 50 years from a point where they were sort of, their cleanliness and the pollution of them was a secondary thought to where it is the main thought that of all municipalities and industry that border on them. So I think it's important that we support this.
I'd like to thank you both. I think it's a tremendous motion. I think it's a really productive motion to come out of a joint meeting. It shows the importance of this issue and the importance of our shared water. Would you like a recorded vote, Councilor Shoemaker?
Of course, sure.
Mr. Clerk, you can have a recorded vote, please.
Recorded vote has been requested. Councilor Turco? Councilor Fata? Councilor Myers?
4.
Councilor Christian?
4.
Councilor Nero? 4. Councilor Shoemaker?
4.
Councilor Bruni? 4. Councilor Butland?
4.
Mayor Provenzano?
4.
Mayor Putnam, motion passes unanimously.
So, Mr. Clerk, it looks like we're on item 8.
We are, and that is a city flag exchange.
I think we're going to do it right up here. Yeah. So I don't know if we have anybody here to formally take a picture. That camera's on, so everybody's... Do you want to open right up?
Sure, why not?
Council Shoemaker's going to be really proud right now. We recently changed our flag.
Yes, that's beautiful.
There we go.
There it is. Somebody's trying to take care. Let's go this way.
The problem with opening them is you're not supposed to touch the ground.
Yeah, let's go this way.
Upside down.
Oh! All right. There we are.
No, the other way. There you go.
Okay.
There we go.
Good.
Okay. Mr. Clerk? Actually, Councillor Myers had a nice idea. She suggested we should fly yours in the 4th, and you should fly ours in the 1st, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do that, so.
City Manager?
Mr. Clerk?
Our next item is part of the procedural need for the City Commission, a public comment section, and I'd ask Mayor Bosbus to...
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment at this time? Hearing none?
So, even though we don't normally do this, we'll certainly extend the courtesy to our city councilors. Are there any city councilors that would like to make any further comments? Councilor Turco, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think it's appropriate for us to be here today that this is June the 6th. It was back two great countries, a great province and a great state, and two great cities. It was June the 6th, 1944, a little before my time, Bill. An event called D-Day. So here we are, sitting together tonight. General Dwight Eisenhower gave the go-ahead to Operation Overlord. Some 156,000 forces, Americans, Canadians, and British, landing on the beaches of Normandy. So today we thank the men and women who gave so much for us to be here tonight doing what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other councilors? So before we wrap up, I just want to recognize and thank the staff who did a lot of work putting this meeting together, and thank our delegations for making the effort of putting together your presentations and come. We have quite a special relationship, our two cities. I think it's very unique. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find another Canadian city and another American city that are not simply as close in geography, but are as close in kinship and friendship and the effort we make to work together. And the border, it exists, but to a lot of our residents, it's just a time delay. It's something we have to stop at, answer a few questions at, and proceed through. I was a customs officer at one point in my life, so I asked a lot of those questions, and I was always impressed with the familiarity that we shared. And I think that this has been a great experience and a great meeting, and I hope that we certainly do it again. I want to thank you, Mayor, for keeping on us to do this meeting and leading as you did and making sure that we got together. And I want to thank you, Commissioners, for making the effort to come over here. And we look forward to working with you. We've got a year and a half roughly left in our term, and we certainly look forward for doing this again. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And this is just a great venue. We have certainly our city council and our building now, which is it's a great building, but this venue works so well for these kind of meetings. When you think about where else does this happen? Anywhere in the United States or in Canada, or maybe in Europe. This is totally unique that both council and commission would meet, and this is the fourth time. It would be great to bring it to the next level where we would actually have a project, and hopefully that's not too far away. But again, thank you for your hospitality. It's certainly appreciated by our commission, and again, this doesn't happen anywhere else in that I know of. And we can continue to do this. And it doesn't have to be every other year. I think it started in 2003. And this is the fourth one, so that as time allows and as persistence allows, we continue to do this, and it's just great. Thank you very much again for your hospitality.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
I have a motion by Councilors Bruni and Christian, resolved that the Committee of the Whole now rise without reporting on the matter referred to it by City Council, Twin Sault's Joint Council Commission meeting.
All in favor? Carried.
And a motion by Councilors Fata and Butland, resolved that the Twin Sault's Joint Council Commission meetings shall now adjourn.
All in favor? Carried.